Nivasi Satanine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so I just had a quick look at where we left off last week. And although we read this verse in purple, I thought, let's just read the verse again at least, and we might just remember the context of the discussion. And the discussion is becoming quite, lots of aspects of tattva are being mentioned here in this discussion between Krishna, Uddhava, Devaki, and others. And here it's speaking about Krishna's manifesting as the son, or appearing as the son of Vasudeva, so-called, and Nanda and Yasoda. So let's just read the verse. Uddhava told Krishna, the wise...
Whereabouts are we? Chapter 6, which verse?
This is, one second, let me have a look. This is chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Verse 76 and 78, we are just reading. But we start reading at 79. So I'm just recapping and reading this verse. So chapter, you can see it up there, chapter 7.
Okay, thank you.
The wise Devaki, this is Uddhava speaking to Krishna. The wise Devaki shelters you, who sheltered the entire world. So it sounds like a bit of a contradiction. Yeah, Devaki is sheltering Krishna, but Krishna is the shelter of the whole world. When she heard those wicked words, she said, "Foolish woman, what is unusual here? She, Vasudeva, and I, in our previous lives, underwent austerities to get the Lord as our son. And therefore, the Lord, to bestow of all boons, accepted that role. But Nanda and Yasoda prayed to Lord Brahma for pure devotion." Now, I'm just curious of what was said to be labeled as a foolish person, a foolish woman. Oh, Devaki, devoid of pious credits, the unfortunate Rukmini, wretched Satyabhama, Jambavati, and you, other miserable women, look here. From now on, you should give up your pride and undergo the greatest penance to become servants of those Abhirama nomad women. As I say, the conversation is quite terse and quite intense, trying to follow exactly. Yeah, let's just read here. The first paragraph. Because normally I do this before we begin the reading, but I didn't get a chance this evening. So I'm just doing a little bit of backtracking now. The queens of Dwarka may have won Krishna's hand in marriage, but they should not think that they have stronger hold on his heart than the Vraj Gopis. The others are a degraded class of nomads, whereas the cowherds of Nanda are respectable twice-born Vaishyas. But because Nanda's community is engaged in some cowherding business, as the outcast nomads, and just out of spite, Padmavati calls Nanda's Gopas Abhiramas. Okay, so he spoke of it in a deriding way. So this, Padmavati is quite a character. So she's accusing them because they herd cows, and because these low-class nomads also herd cows, she's calling them Abhiras. All right, so that's where we left off. That's where we left off the fun conversation. So I see Mavalavanga, you have your hand there. You can read a few verses. Text 79.
79. Text 79. Okay. By the blessings of that foremost devotee of the Lord, Nanda and Yashoda, along with their whole household, became greater than us. Commentary. In Devaki's opinion, Brahma had the power to make Nanda and Yashoda the best parents of the Lord, because Brahma himself was the best of all the Lord's devotees. In the words of Sukadeva Goswami in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, 295, Sa'adi Devo Jagatam Paro Guru, Brahma is the first of gods, the supreme spiritual master of all the worlds. Devaki indicates by her comparison of blessings that the Supreme Lord so greatly empowers devotees engaged in his service that the benedictions they give can be more effective than his own. Yeah. Text 80. Because of their exceptional love, they were allowed to raise the Lord as their child and cherish his many wonderful activities. Therefore, his special attitude toward them is fitting and very much pleasing to me. Commentary. Nanda and Yashoda deserve the best reciprocation from Krishna. Had Krishna not dealt with them in the most intimate way, he would have been guilty of ingratitude. Text 81. Uddhava continued, then Sri Rukmini Devi brightly spoke. By hearing her words, all the devotees increased in love for Krishna. Commentary. Hearing the praise of devotees greater than oneself, like the praise about to be spoken by Queen Rukmini, does not cause envy or discouragement for pure Vaishnavas. Rather, it increases their eagerness to please the Lord by their own service. Text 82. Sri Rukmini said, those women gave up everything, their husbands, sons, and all else they had, disregarding their own fortune in this world and the next. Enduring distress, they worshipped the Lord in their own way, enchanting him in the rasa dance and other pastimes. Text 83.
Sorry.
You got lost in that one.
Yeah.
We can hope to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by following many rigorous spiritual practices, and we can meditate upon him only by strictly training the attention of our hearts. But those gopis cherish such exceptional love for him that they easily attain the success of the most advanced stages of meditation. Commentary. Other devotees can only hope to follow in the footsteps of the Vrindavan gopis, and by the sincerest endeavors might begin to approach the perfection that for the gopis was their natural birthright. For the most part, devotees can see Krishna only in their hearts, but the gopis serve him directly with all their senses. Indeed, they permanently hold Krishna's attention, as Uddhava told gopis. Yeah. In your mood of separation, you have traversed a path on which even great yogis cannot go. You have made the Supreme Person the object of your meditation, though other seekers can focus their attention on him only with great travail.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. The gopis, by their natural disposition as girls, Madhurya Bhav, or their relationship with Krishna is very intense. I think we've mentioned this before. Of all the exchanges that we can have on the human platform, father, mother, cousins, grandfather, grandfather, etc. The most intense, or we might say the most one that can have the most intimacy and most intensity in that regard is between male and female. Girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, etc., etc. Yeah. For instance, no doubt there's intimacy, as there's a great intimacy between, you could say, the Vatsalya Bhav or Mother Yasoda. That's for sure. That's quite intense. The relationship of the mother with her child is very intense. Not intense is the right word. It's very close. Because they could use intense. But then the relationship between the gopis who happen to be in Gopi means female body. So Krishna is not specifically attracted to a female body. Obviously, he's attracted to their devotion, but it happens to be exhibited in that natural way, being gopis. So, for instance, they're all in love with Krishna because he's charmed them with his flute playing and his beautiful looks and his playful glances. And it's a secretive love in Vraj, but they're all charmed by him, very much so. So, for instance, they're always speaking about him. And when Krishna goes in the morning time to herd the cows, they're very much intensely thinking about him. Also, all the residents of Vraj are as well, but the gopis do to a more intense degree. That's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the greatest relationship, or the greatest example of devotion is that of the gopis. The best place is Vrindavan, and the gopis exhibit the highest level of affection. Yeah. So, but Krishna is not particularly attached. It just to, of course, as we mentioned, he's not attached. He's not controlled by lust. He's controlled by karma in the sense of devotion. So here that's being now spoken of. Yeah. And then of course we can then further it down. We can then speak about the gopis, and then eventually I'm quite sure they're going to speak about Radharani. Of all the gopis, she has the most intense love for Krishna. And just what I mentioned, that just came to mind as we're reading this. Any questions or comments you can ask, or it's not clear. It's quite an elevated subject, which we don't have so much qualification to fully understand. But just, again, just focusing on that part, that's what, if you just think of the gopis and how they're thinking of Krishna. Anyway, let's continue reading. Text 84.
Shall I keep reading?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It is befitting, therefore, that Krishna loves them more than us, for we are obsessed with our religious duties, social obligations, children, grandchildren, homes, household affairs, and so on. We are but his maidservants, worshipping him with reverence like fallen conditioned souls. We married wives should not envy his exceptional love for the gopis. Rather, we should always glorify that love, for it proves how very subservient he becomes to his beloved devotees. Commentary. Speaking on behalf of all the queens, Srimati Rukmini, contrasting their own mode of serving Krishna with that of the gopis, admits that the service of the queens is inferior. Because the queens consider Krishna their husband, their exchanges with him are restricted by social rules. The queens are bound by concerns for various worldly and religious duties, whereas the gopis have no concern for anything but satisfying Krishna. Thus the gopis serve Krishna in such indescribably exquisite sports as the rasa dance, whereas the queens can render only the conventional services a faithful wife performs for her respected husband. From the queen's standpoint, only the gopis of Vraj possess the purest type of love. Krishna accordingly responds to that unique love in unique ways. Sometimes he hides himself outside a corner of a gopi's house and attracts the gopi's attention by making curious sounds. He quickly rises from bed and steals to the door, careful not to awaken family members, such as her mother-in-law. And outside she meets Krishna and pleases him with embraces and kisses. Even during the day, Krishna is sometimes busy in a grove selected for a secret meeting on the bank of the Yamuna. While arranging a soft bed from leaves and flowers, he hears the sound of falling leaves, signaling that his beloved has arrived. He turns his face toward the path outside the grove, by which a gopi, on the pretext of fetching water from the Yamuna, is coming to fulfill his desires. Sometimes at dusk, several gopis become intoxicated by hearing Krishna calling them with the song of his flute. They run toward him hastily, their garments, hair, and ornaments in disarray. But when they meet him, he tries to turn them back with proud, deceptive words that cast them into despair. After they helplessly beg him to change his mind, he acquiesces, giving up his pretense. And when they realize he was only joking with them, they become filled with joy, grab hold of the end of his yellow dhoti, and pull him into a nearby secluded grove. In such ways, the gopis of Vraj enjoy the freedom of worshipping Krishna as their paramour, whereas the queens of Dwarka admit that they are limited to worshipping him according to the principles of religious household life, subject to Vedic injunctions and social customs. Therefore, the queens declare, the queens never envy the gopis, for a subordinate should never envy a superior. Maidservants in a noble household, for example, should not be jealous of the mistress they serve. Rather than envy the Vraj gopis, Krishna's wives in Dwarka admire them as perfect exemplars of devotion. Krishna's love for the gopis deliberately shows to everyone the greatest feature of his transcendental personality, his voluntary submission to the control of his dearest devotees. Without daring to state it openly, the queens nourish a hope to become like the gopis. The queens minimize the value of their own devotion, blaming themselves for being attached to mundane religious and social duties, although in truth the queens are free from any material attachment. Even if the queens are attached to their religious and social obligations, that is not a fault but a virtue that enhances their special love for Krishna. When the queens speak, as Rukmini does here, they do so out of natural humility to express their admiration for the rare fortune of the gopis. Jai.
Okay. So that highlights more what was explaining. So the gopis, they're also living in obviously in a Vedic social setting, but their glory is that they gave of that
sound
up.
coming when you speak. There's
Is that coming from me? Is some from someone who's not muted? Let me just.
quite possible.
Let me just try and. Oh, it's gone quiet now. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it froze for a second there. Yeah, so they gave absolutely everything up. They gave up their shyness, they gave up the concern for retribution or dishonor. They come from respectable families, yeah, and especially in those times, the ladies were very chaste, being brought up in that way, but they became spontaneously, lovingly attached to Krishna. They gave up all sense and here we heard in this purport, it wasn't directly stated, but Gopi Pranada is mentioned a rasa dance where they was called here. Sometimes at dusk, several gopis become intoxicated by hearing Krishna calling them. They run towards him hastily. And this is the rasa dance when he asked them, at least I think it is, when he asked him, what are you doing here? You should go back and be with your husbands. And so Krishna's teaching him that way. Anyway, quite elevated topic. Any questions on this or comments? Okay, let's please, yes. We can't hear you, Mother.
Sorry, I was just thinking the queens, their attitude towards the gopis is very, very nice. Like they are so praising them in such a way, that and making their own position, minimizing their own position, even though that their position is still very great. I just find it inspiring to hear the way they're speaking about the gopis and how they're admiring the gopis.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that out. This is a very important point. In other words, there is no envy in the spiritual world. Yeah. Well, it may seem to be sometimes, but actually it's not envy as we see here in the material world. Yeah, because they're pure-hearted. So the object of everyone's love is Krishna. So the love of the gopis, it inspires their own specific love, and they feel greatly inspired by it. Yes, it's a very good point. Yeah, this is a spiritual realm. Can you imagine being in a realm where no one is envious? No one is envious. They're all serving Krishna in their own way. So, yeah, there's examples of, one example comes to mind of envy between wives in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Is it the Brahmin's wives?
No.
Chitraketu's wives? No.
Is it Dhruva Maharaj's mother and stepmother? No.
What about
Examples in Srimad Bhagavatam. These are co-wives, and there's another example. This was quite extreme. This is the wives of really? Can you tell us briefly? Yeah, you can tell us briefly that story.
The story is that Ritra's, it's a Chitraketu actually.
Chitraketu, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Vitrasura, not Vitrasura.
That was Chitraketu in the next life. That was Chitraki, yeah.
Yes, yes,
They got
yes.
it.
Mhm.
So the extent that they actually killed, they poisoned the son who was born of the queen that, you know, the queen that gave a son. They poisoned him. Of course, they regretted it after, but still, that's the degree of intense envy. But nothing like that here, not in the spiritual world. Yeah, so they're happy. So we should also learn a lot from, we should learn from that. Naturally, you will see devotees will excel better than what we may do in different acts and different devotional activities. Oh, we have Bhagavatamrita's gone. It's a blank screen. Can you see a blank screen, or can you see the Brihad Bhagavatamrita?
Blank screen.
Blank screen. Okay, perhaps it didn't like what I was saying. It's a bit. What was I saying? I got distracted then. I remember, I lost my train of thought. You know, so
No envy in the
but that was it. We should appreciate other devotees' services that they do, or how they may excel in different levels of expertise in service. Yeah, and you'll find it's a nice, if we can overcome our envy and we can praise devotees. Krishna likes that. And then we will feel free of stress and anxiety, and our heart will become peaceful because we're pleasing Krishna. Yeah, by not being envious. Someone may be first initiated before us, second initiated. Someone may get to dress Radha Krishna or do this or that or whatever it may be. Yeah, we should think, oh, they're greatly fortunate. Oh, they're greatly blessed. You know? And Bhagavatam also says in the first verse, that we can understand this subject of Bhagavatam, the stories of Krishna, to that degree that we're free of envy. Yeah, we're pure in heart. Anyway, so yeah, thank you for bringing it out, Mamalabanga. Very important point. So let's see what's happening here. Let's come back. Okay. So let's, Monica Mavi, you like to read?
Text
85, I think, which is the right place.
Yes, text 85. The other queens all agreed. Only Satyabhama, Satrajiti, unable to tolerate those words, entered her chamber of anger. Text 86. Sri Parikshit said, the blessed Lord of the life of the gopis then ordered angrily, bring here at once that daughter of the foolish king. Commentary. In reference to Krishna, the epithet Shriman means endowed with the wealth of supreme love, or else possessing all beautiful splendor. He is the Lord of the life of the gopis, headed by Sri Radha, or alternatively, they are the rulers of his life. Therefore, when Satyabhama, the daughter of Satrajit, showed displeasure at the glorification of the gopis, Krishna demanded she is brought before him for correction. And Krishna angrily reminded his devotees that his wife's father had been implicated in the scandal over the Shamataka jewel. Text 87. Satyabhama, most expert in the arts of amorous love, was always ready to skillfully serve her husband in the mood of jealous pride, knowing him also to be fully conversant with the skills of love and anger to enjoy with the cowherd women. Text 88. Upon hearing this order from her maidservants, the intelligent Satyabhama got up, bathed, and quickly came before Krishna. Commentary. Satyabhama is Sri Krishna's very dear wife and would never act in such a way as to disturb his mind. She makes a show of petulance because she knows what gives Krishna pleasure. Being at the heart a great romantic, he enjoys affectionate quarrels with his beloved queens. Calming the anger of his wives is one of his favorite diversions. And moreover, he feels great satisfaction in glorifying the gopis of Raj, including Chandravali and others. He is always eager to relish the sublime taste of their love. Text 89. She hid herself behind a pillar and stood there.
There's more here. There's more here.
Oh, sorry.
At the top.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But why does Krishna take pleasure in the in global sports of struggling to subdue the pride of quarrelsome women, because he is the topmost connoisseur of conjugal reciprocation. So these dealings give him unequaled joy. Text 89. She hid herself behind a pillar and stood there, filled with shame and fear. Krishna noticed her and, still angry, spoke to her in a clear voice. Commentary. Although Satyabhama hid herself so that Krishna could not see her, he smelled her unique fragrance and noticed other subtle signs of her presence. Satyabhama often had fits of jealousy, but now she feared that by showing her temper at an unsuitable moment, she might have gone too far. The Supreme Lord's service should never be performed haphazardly, but always with careful attention to satisfying him with just what he wants and at the time he wants it. Text 90 to 91. The Supreme Lord said, O weak-minded Satyajit, just as you grew angry when Rukmani obtained special favors like the Parijit flower, now you are angry at our intense love for the people of Raj. Silly woman, don't you know that I am ruled by their desires? Commentary. Displeased with Satyabhama, Krishna remembers that her father had sometimes acted foolishly. Thus he addresses her as daughter of Satyajit and calls her weak-minded and silly. He refers to himself in the plurals either because he is thinking of Sri Balaram and Rohini, who share his feelings for the Rajvasis, or because he is proud of himself for having the great treasure of the Rajvasis' love. Text 92. If the people of Raj thought it is good that I renounce everything, I promise you that in a moment I would do just that. Commentary. If we are to take these words seriously, Krishna would not hesitate to abandon his wives, his children, and everyone else in Dwarka, if that would make the Vrajvasis happy. But we should also take into account that a solemn vow is usually made only for someone in whom one has firm trust, and this means that Satyabhama also is very dear to Krishna. Text 93. The praise offered by the Venerable Brahma was not spoken in vain. I can never fully repay these devotees, and so I am utterly indebted to them. Commentary. Krishna is the all-powerful Supreme Lord, and at his command are boundless energies, ready to fulfill his every desire. But he cannot repay his debt of gratitude to his devotees in Sri Vrindavan. Thus, he constantly looks for small favors he can do for them as tokens of his affection. As Brahma stated while praising Krishna's super excellence, my mind becomes bewildered just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you shower upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavan, whose homes, wealth, friends, bodies, children, dear relations, and very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? Text 94. But even if for their pleasure I were to return to live with them, I don't see how that would help. Text 95. Just by seeing me, they would become so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within that they fail to recognize their own bodies and everything that has to do with their bodies, what to speak of the rest of the world. Commentary. As soon as the devotees of Raj see Krishna's beauty, their prema transforms into intense ecstasies, manifest in their bodies as trembling, perspiring, and other sattvic symptoms. These devotees then enter a trance of bewilderment, losing external consciousness. In this state called vimoham, the most exceptional trance, visitam moham, the Supreme Person reveals himself in full with his attributes and associates. This state therefore lies far beyond the partial realization of the truth attained by impersonalists in their ordinary samadhi with its artificial background of voidness. The masculine pronoun they here indicates all the Rajvasis, both male and female, or else Krishna is really talking only about his female devotees. The young gopis but avoids using the feminine pronoun ta, because in the present company, he does not want to talk about them openly. In either case, when the Brajvasis see him, they forget their own bodies and everything connected with them, family, social position, responsibilities, and so on. They forget whatever plans they may have had for success in this life and the next. Therefore, since the Vrajvasis upon seeing Krishna again would lose all contact with reality, Krishna sees no hope of restoring them to health by returning. His going back to them would only make their condition worse.
Okay, so it's an interesting conclusion that Krishna's come to. I mean, the whole pastime is about Krishna's feeling of separation from Raj. And now he's concluding that for their benefit, or it would be better if he doesn't return. Interesting. Yeah, that's for the reasons he has just stated. It will make their condition worse. Interesting. So you can read a couple more verses more. Then
text 96. So their pain won't be relieved, even if they see me. Their hearts will be so disturbed by thoughts of separation from me that whatever measures I take for their happiness will only double their grief. Is that because he doesn't want them to be under more grief because he's already left them once, and by doing it again, it'll be devastating?
Yeah, more or less. And there's one book which highlights just specifically one type of relationship with Krishna, this coming and going to Raj. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not mentioned that Krishna actually goes back to Raj. But there's one verse where it indicates that he does. Some of you might know of that, where that's when the queens of Dwarka, they speak of Krishna, and they speak of Krishna and they mention their feelings of separation from Krishna. For example, when he goes to battle the demons, and they mentioned in passing when he goes to Vrindavan, the queens of Dwarka feel separation. So that's like an indication, a seed indication that Krishna did actually go back to Raj. And the Acharyas, it's not interesting, it's not in Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami didn't choose to speak about it. I guess because he only had 7 days. But then the Acharyas, the Goswami speak about Krishna returning to Raj and then leaving again, then returning, then leaving, returning and leaving. And more or less, they enter into a state where whether Krishna's there or not, they're always in a state of intense feelings of separation and type of illusory or divine madness. Yeah. Because even when Krishna is present, they get to a state where, and then Krishna goes, and then they reflect that Krishna's being present was just a dream, but he was actually present, but they think it's just a dream. And when he goes, then Krishna's manifest again in their mood of bhava. It's all kind of mixes into one. They cannot distinguish. And that there's a book. This book is, again, it's a book by Srila Shivaram Swami. It's called Na Parayaham. It's one of his Krishna Vrindavan series. No, it's wrong. That's called Krishna Sangati. It's called Krishna Sangati. So that book is all about Krishna's returning to Raj, and then leaving, and then returning. And it's
I
quite.
was just thinking, Prabhu, when we read the pastime of Krishna and the Brajavasis meeting in Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
From that, it seems that he never went, because they were meeting after a very long time. Yeah,
that's why I bring that out, because it is interesting that the elaboration that the Goswamis give, and they recite part. Of course, Krishna. We might say that Krishna comes. He manifests within the earthly realm on the 1 day of Brahma, isn't it? So it might be he's different. It might be referring to his different appearances in different millenniums.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's why it's an interesting study that Shivarama Swami Maharaj did. And on reading the books of the Goswamis, it is actually accounted that Krishna went back. Yeah, Krishna went back. So yeah, so we can just, all we can do is leave it like that. Yeah, whatever it is, yeah. In Dwarka, it seemed like he did never go back for 100 years. You know? But there is, and you can imagine the pastime is very sweet when he does go back. And they see him, and he's with them again, and it's as if he's never left. It's as if he's never left at all. Their anxiety disappears in an instant, and they're in their complete festival. There's a whole festival. Again, in the morning, there's a whole pastime of Maria coming, waking Krishna up, and he goes to herd the cows, and then the cowherd boys sharing lunch, and the gopis and ras dance. Then at some point, boom, he's gone. He's gone again. And they enter into a state of madness where they're not even sure that he came. They thought it was all a dream. So, and there's one detail, for example, which describes where even when Krishna comes into the vicinity of Raj, even the trees and all the vegetation uproots and goes to meet him. How that happens, I don't know. All the trees and all the tree and the cows all come to meet Krishna. And Shubal, when he actually comes, it's just beautifully described. He comes and he's staring wide eyes, and he can't believe that Krishna's in front of him. He can't believe it. And Krishna's trying to shake him, yes, it's me, your bosom friend. I am here. And he can't believe it. He's going wide eyed. And then you can imagine what it is when actually a message gets to Radharani that Krishna's returned. Wow. First she wants to go and rush to meet Krishna. But then who is it? Lalita stops her, says, no, you can imagine, you should not do this. He should come to see you. So that's the role she plays. You should not be so easy to get. You should wait, and he's going to come to see you. And then she is all exciting where and then amazing that as soon as she meets Krishna, she forgets everything. All the anxiety for years and years and years just disappears, that she's with Krishna again. Then, as I said, then a few days later or sometime later, he goes again. And he comes back. That's called Krishna Sangati. I know when Shivarama Swami wrote that book, he said, make sure you have a box of tissues with you.
Oh.
This is quite good. Krishna's coming back, and the pastimes there. Yeah.
It's a bit like when you come and see the deities in the temple. You have all these things in your mind, all these anxieties. As soon as you see the deities, you're like,
or when we're away for some time and we're away from our regular darshan or a regular service, we come back and get some idea perhaps of that. Yeah. So here, back to the verse here. So again, Krishna's feeling for them. So he's concluding perhaps he should not go back. Yeah. There's more.
I think I stopped. I think I need to read the commentary.
Okay, go ahead. Read the commentary.
Commentary. In their trance of separation, the devotees of Raja are aware of nothing but Krishna. Their ecstasy is so deep that as a natural effect of remembering Krishna, they see him physically before them. Other pure devotees whose love for Krishna is not on the same level of perfection have separate experiences of him internally and externally. Dhruva, for example, concentrated his mind on Lord Vishnu in deep meditation, but his internal vision of the Lord did not expand into a vision outside like that of the gopis. Only when Lord Vishnu came to Dhruva to offer him special mercy did the Lord disappear from Dhruva's heart to show himself externally, as described in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4.92. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and on which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. The full vision of Krishna's beauty relished by the Vrajvasis in the ultimate fruit of spiritual perfection. One might suggest, therefore, that if Krishna were to present himself once more before the Vrajvasis, their condition would certainly improve. This might be true, but to recover from that intense pain of separation would take time, and the Vrajvasis, thinking Krishna might leave them again, might relapse into their trance of separation. Therefore, Krishna thinks that returning to them would only cast them deeper into suffering. The painful anxiety of separation from Krishna puts the Atmas of the Vrajvasis, meaning their hearts, their bodies, and very essence of their being, into turmoil. When a person has not eaten for a long time, the vital elements of his body are depleted, so that even after obtaining food, he takes time to recover. He does not recover simply by having food placed before him. He has to eat, and in a manner that does not make him sicker. Then he has to wait for the nourishment to be distributed in his body. Similarly, Krishna thinks that the Vrajvasis will not recover just by seeing me. They will have to enjoy pastimes with me, and not only for a short time, but as long as needed to fulfill their desires. I fear that this will not prove impossible, since I have
not prove impossible. Okay, yes.
Since I have too many other things to take care of elsewhere. I am incapable of curing them. Even if Krishna's concern was unfounded, if he were to treat their disease of separation by returning to them, they would remain susceptible to agitation, thinking he might leave them again. Their anxiety, being an essential part of their very existence, cannot be cured even by personal darshan, as Krishna indicates by the word vai. He knows that from his own experience with the devotees of Vrindavan, and so also do the devotees he is speaking to in Dwarka. As Sukadev Goswami relates in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the last chapter of the 10th canto, after Krishna's queens enjoyed water sports with Krishna, the queens moaned, "O Korari bird, at night you are lamenting. Somewhere in this world the Supreme Lord is asleep in a hidden place, but you are wide awake. O friend, unable to fall asleep, it is that you, like us, have had your heart pierced to the core by the magnificent playing smiling glances of the lotus-eyed Lord." While speaking this verse, Krishna's queens were not actually separated from him. Thus they say, Ratim Ishwara, referring to the night as different from the present.
Sorry. Yeah.
Present moment. In fact, they were speaking during the day and had finished playing with Krishna in the water, introducing these sports. Sukadev had said, the queens then became stunned in ecstatic trance, their minds absorbed in Krishna alone, thinking of their lotus-eyed Lord. They spoke as if insane. Please hear their words from me as I relate them. Thus the queens whose only object of attention was Krishna were momentarily speechless in trance. When their thoughts of Krishna impelled them to speak, they spoke slowly as if recovering from mental imbalance. From their words, it is evident that Krishna's queens were foreseeing the pain of separation, even while enjoying with them. Sukadev Goswami chose to end his narration of the 10th canto on this note of especially intense sweetness, Madhurena Sampate. Krishna,
and the 90th chapter is the last chapter of that part of Bhagavatam. Yeah, carry on.
Krishna may be the omnipresent Supreme Lord and the most expert arranger of all things to satisfy his devotees. But these very special devotees, the devotees in Vraj, he feels unable to help. Tesam, there, may again refer either to the Vrajvasis in general or else only to the gopis. His sentiments expressed in this verse are befitting.
Oh, long purple, carry on.
In either case, any attempt to make the Vrajvasis happy will quickly make everything go wrong. Just as water thrown on an oil fire makes the fire explode and go out of control. Thus, Krishna faces a dilemma. On one hand, the Vrajvasis do not know how they can survive in separation from Krishna. And on the other hand, even if he stays with them a long time, they will be inevitably worried that at any moment he might leave them again. At this most exquisite agony of Varaha Bhav rises in their hearts. It will only worsen their grief. Krishna reasons that just as there is no way to remove the natural quality of heat that he imparted to the element fire at the time of creation, there is no way that anyone, even he himself, could withdraw the ecstatic nature of the Vrajvasis imparted to them by his unique mercy. The state of affairs is the greatest glory of the residents of Vraj. Of course, the devotees of Krishna in Vraja feel special ecstasy when they join with him directly in the spontaneous pastimes found nowhere else. Nonetheless, the special pure love born of separation from him rises within them most of the time. The Vrajvasis are the special recipients of super excellent Varaha Bhav, which is the greatest mercy, Param Mahatva, because it is filled with the highest special happiness carried to its ultimate extreme. Although everyone in this world lives in separation from Krishna, only the Vrajvasis fully experience the Varaha Bhav. Their special ecstasy of separation from Krishna is obtained only by his special mercy and only after very intimate association with him. Krishna feels very grateful for this transcendental love of his gopis and his other beloved devotees in Vrindavan. So he cannot bear to see the disastrous effects of the Varaha Bhav. He therefore cannot return to live in Vrindavan again or even pay a short visit.
Okay. So what can we possibly comment upon that?
Wow. Intense.
So do you remember when we read the Venu Gita? We read the Venu Gita and there's that pastime. I was trying to think of the name of it. It's not. Purva Rag is a love of the lover before you actually meet them. Wow. Just by hearing about Krishna, like Rukmini, she heard about him and she became full of prema and love for him. But remember that a pastime where even though Krishna was present, Radharani went into a trance of Vipralamba, Virahara Bhav. Do you anyone can remember that pastime from Venu Gita? We read it, we read through it. It's one of the first pastimes that's mentioned there. Okay, I'll just tell it briefly and then I'm sure you'll remember it. Krishna is with Radha. They're in a kunja and they're exchanging beautiful riddles with each other. Like, for instance, Krishna or Radha asked Krishna, Radha asked Krishna, Krishna asked Radha, what is full of holes? What is full of holes but is completely pure? Or what is infested with the faults but is completely pure and attracts the minds of everyone? So Radha says, it is your flute, which is full of holes but attracts the mind of everyone. So there's a certain pastime of ras that the gopis and Krishna exchange, and it's one of riddles and innuendos like that. So they're exchanging very nicely, and then they're alone in a kunja, and this big bee flies into the kunja. Anyone remember it now? Big bee flies into the kunja.
At the time, Krishna also, he says something about your residence, like where is your residence?
Yeah, go on. You can remember that part?
Where is your residence? And it was either in the forest or in Radharani's eyes or something. It was quite a funny exchange, but I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the way they use words and give different interpretations on it. It's also mentioned as one of Krishna's qualities as well. And the qualities of in the class of speech. But yeah, so then I cut the story short. Then Madhu Mandal, the bee was disturbing Radharani. Madhu Mandal, who had eaten a great amount of mangoes, was sleeping outside, and he heard Radharani shrieking, because this bee, he came running in, saw the bee, and the bee is called Madhu. So he chased the bee out, and then he said, don't worry, Madhu has gone. And when the sound Madhu has gone entered Radharani's ears, it acted like a poison, because Krishna is known as Madhu. Yeah? And she couldn't see Krishna, and tears came from her eyes. And Krishna, you know, he couldn't believe it. He was laughing in like astonished ecstasy at her feelings of love. But then Krishna's voice sounded like an echo, like a long way away. So Radharani went into complete viraha bhav, and she's sitting right there next to Krishna. And then Krishna, he sheds tears seeing that. The Mother Mongol sheds tears, and that's known as Prema Sarova. You know. But anyway, so I just also reflecting on, you know, our goal actually is to achieve to be an associate of Krishna, to enter into Vrindavan. But we're not going to be very peaceful there. We're going to also enter in this divine type of madness of, there will never be a stage where we're always with Krishna. Just like even in Vraj, it doesn't exist. So the stage we can only dream of in any 100 lifetimes to come that we might get such things, but there are Krishna's always coming and going. Yeah. So like what is being described here in this wonderful purple of Gopi Pranadhana, that this is what we're trying to achieve. So when I say we won't be peaceful, we have to understand the context of that. We will be completely free of any material hankering. So in that state, we'll be on the state of transcendence, Suddha Sattva. But it was a very emotional affair, as you can imagine, isn't it? Here we're hearing it's very emotional. Love for Krishna is very emotional. You know, we're full of emotions for everything material, for matter. We have emotions for material matter, temporary things. But the real emotions are invested here in Krishna, in feelings of love and virahara bhav and separation. Yeah. Right, so we got up to, where had we end up in text 2? What happened there? I don't know what happened. All right, what's happened there? Let me have a look. Part 7. What happened there? How did they get there? Something wrong with something happening. Let me. I won't be able to scroll all the way to the end. 1 second. Let me just. We've got 5 minutes left. I don't want to miss this. Okay, let's go here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Read that, read this.
That's the one, 97.
97.
Yeah.
97 one, yeah? Great,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, I'll have a go at read. Well, we read this, yeah, we read this as along with what we just read. Okay, so I'll read the last few minutes. Text 97. And when they cannot see me, they become so torn that the fire of separation leaves them sometimes as though dead, and sometimes as though insane. Thus they partake of the nectar of wonderful ecstasies. Commentary. In this verse, Krishna defends himself against the accusation that he is ungrateful to have abandoned the residence of Vraj. When the Vrajvasis feel, what the Vrajvasis feel because of Krishna's absence is a concentrated agony, similar to the burning heat of fire. Okay? Is concentrated agony similar to the burning heat of fire. They lose control of their wits and sometimes seem on the verge of death, showing no external signs of life. At other times, they seem afflicted by madness, but Krishna explains that these are all signs of the highest devotional ecstasy. It's called Unmada. Text 98. If they see a patch of darkness resembling my complexion, they embrace and kiss it, mistaking it for me. What more can I describe? Commentary. When the devotees of Vrindavan, especially the young gopis, see a shadow or a dark place that reminds them of Krishna's spotless, dark blue complexion, they think that Krishna is standing before them. But what else they do besides trying to kiss and embrace the shadow? Krishna would rather not describe, because some of his hearers might be unqualified to understand and others might be plunged into distress. Even if he were to return to his devotees in Vrindavan and grace them with his presence, he would be powerless to soothe and enliven them. And even in his absence, the Vrajavasis sometimes enjoy his presence on their own by picturing spiritual images of him within their minds. So Krishna feels he cannot do anything to change their situation and must remain an insolvent debtor. So it means he can't pay it back. Na pariyoham, cannot pay you back. As he previously described, he should not be called ungrateful because the circumstances render him helpless. Text 99. Therefore, my staying with them would be equal to my absence. Realizing this, I have not returned there. Now here, the real reason I married you. Okay, it should be interesting. Commentary. Wherever Krishna shows himself, he's speaking to the queens. Sorry? Oh, someone needs to mute that. Wherever Krishna shows himself to the dearmost devotee or remains unseen to them, they will be torn by the ecstasies of separation, and he will suffer the frustration of being unable to help them. Such is the apparent misery of Krishna and his devotees. But there is another level of this transcendental reality unseen to ordinary eyes. Krishna lives eternally in Vrindavan in his invisible aprakata manifestation, endlessly continuing to bestow the enjoyment of his pastimes. In some confidential pastimes, he returns to Vrindavan from Dwarka in his apokrata form. Thus, at the same time that the devotees of Vrindavan suffer separation from Krishna's manifestation, in which times up hints never full. I'm so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within, and whatever measures I take for their happiness will only double their grief. Elsewhere, the evidence for Krishna's secretly returning to Mathura Mandal is more concrete. It's the verse I was referring to earlier. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1:11-19, the citizens of Dwarka mentioned Krishna's trips to Hastinapura and Mathura Mandala. And the ladies of Hastinapura, referring to Krishna's perpetual presence in Mathura, speak in the present tense. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, is marking the land by his birth and his wanderings. The women of Mathura city also talk about Krishna's being present still in Vraj. How pious are the tracts of land in Vraj, for there the primeval personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about, enacting his many pastimes, adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands, his feet worshipped by Lord Shiva and the goddess Rama. He vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. Bhagavatam 10:44-13. In the Uttarakanda of Sri Padma Purana, Lord Shiva relates to his wife an even more explicit account of Krishna's returning to Vraj and remaining there permanently. And in the second part of this Brihat Bhagavatam, Rita, the glories of Goloka, the conclusion will demonstrate that Lord Krishna always resides in Gokula. Nevertheless, Krishna has chosen not to divulge to Satyabhama and his other queens that he returned to Gokula. Hearing about this would distress them, and he cannot tolerate seeing his devotees distressed. Okay, Hari Om, that's up. Hare Krishna, wonderful Krishna Katha this evening. Thank you for joining us. So something to meditate upon. to a degree of qualification that we can, the really intense emotions of Virahara Bhav and separation, meeting Krishna. Okay, so thank you everyone. We're okay for next week, I hope. Krishna's willing and Krishna's grace, we can, again, on Monday, we can reading Sankalpa Kamudi. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Hare.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.